Hey, some Social Security news just announced. We're going to talk about it on today's episode. What's 2025 going to look in terms of cost of living increases? Well, we've got an early estimate from this announcement, so let's dive in and break it down.
Let us help you reach your peak in retirement. It's time for Your Retirement Elevated.
Your Retirement Elevated. Walter Storholt here, back with you alongside Scott Dugan, and great episode on the way today. Scott, a little bit of news that we get to cover here regarding Social Security, and I would imagine anytime this comes up, it perks up the ears of your clients.
People want to know, are we going to get an increase? If so, how big is it going to be? So we're going to unveil the latest estimate, just came out this morning, and give you guys some insight on a few other interesting topics when it comes to spending power. So we're excited about going through today.
Yeah, these things will dovetail together nicely. Well, here was the headline that came out on various websites. This one was specifically from CNBC. But yeah, Social Security cost of living adjustment may be 2.6% in 2025. This is what the newest estimate has found. So what's your initial reaction to that increase, Scott? And what is, give us the behind the scenes sort of take here.
Sure. I think this is appropriate. If I know we're going to talk about some historical data, but in line, this is more historically kind of accurate for what we're used to. We had a big bump a couple years ago, and it's kind of tailed off as we tried to cool monetary policy, and we're trying to bring things back down to normal without crashing the economy, and that's the game that they're playing right now. So at 2.6, it sounds about right from a cost of living standpoint. Now, I know there's going to be people that hear that and go, "Well, wait a minute, the cost of living increase, they've monkeyed with that, and they don't include this and don't include that," and that's all true. I'm just stating that from historical terms, it shows that as we're getting probably an interest rate cut, coming up, and that shows they're still trying to bring things down without really imploding them. So a 2.6 Social Security, and it's in line with the direction we're headed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned that historical data. Do you want to take a look at that? And maybe this can put that in context for folks.
Yeah, 2.6 for 2025 is the estimate. 3.2 in 2024, had that big 8.7 in 2023, and that 5.9 in 2022. That was a reaction from massive government bailouts post-COVID. And so you saw a real inflationary explosion. And now that they've tried to tighten the reins, they're bringing it back in. So if you listened to or read our market commentary recently, we felt like the Fed missed the mark. They probably should have cut rates earlier this year. And we're a little undecided. And we had this blip in the markets with what happened with Japan. Japan came out and said, "Hey, we're raising interest rates all the way from 0 up to 0.25. They're like, "Well, that's not very big." Well, that's the first move in 30 years.
Wow.
And so really it's basically Japanese population able to borrow money, and you spread it around the world. So that is significant. They're actually making a rate increase. So you saw that ripple through. Some soft numbers came about. So you saw the market pull back, but really by the end of the week, kind of erased that, and better numbers have happened earlier this week. And so we'll see how it plays out. But again, with this, it's all over the map. And if you look at since 1976 to 2024, I believe our highest rate was 14.3 back in 1980, and then followed up by 11.2. So those are the numbers. And again, it's just a slight cost of living increase. What'll be interesting to see for the people that are on Medicare, are there going to be adjustments to Medicare, especially that Part B premium? They lowered a little bit last year. Are they going to give it to you in one hand and take it out of the other? We'll see when they give us the further estimates later this year.
Those are like when you think taxes are going down, but they're just increasing them in another area of your life.
Yes.
Income tax gone down, but sales tax went up or something like that to offset it, or gas tax.
They need revenue. They're going to get it somewhere. for
That's
sure.
right. Absolutely. So what is the timing of this, Scott? If this is just an estimate, we're here in, mid-August as this information is coming out. So what's the next like deadline, and could it dramatically change from this estimate, you think, or do you think this will be kind of where we end up?
I mean, I think they're letting this out and factor in most of the data they have right now. Now, could curveball happen and they change dramatically? Anything is possible. But if
Sure.
they're letting this number out, I think they're going to try to hit that number. But time will tell. So it's anybody's guess, but I'd say it's going to probably come in and hover around that number when they make the final determination.
All right. Well, we will keep an eye on it, make sure it doesn't change. But when the official announcement comes out, we'll do another episode and, of course, let you know about it here on the podcast and on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe the channel, by the way. It helps support us and
Absolutely.
lets more people know that you like the content of the video. We're not done yet, though, so don't go anywhere. We want to broaden this conversation out just a little bit, Scott. When it comes to Social Security, cost of living increases, it always leads to this broader discussion of buying power. What is this really going to do to help me? And you saw something on Instagram that kind of jumped out at you recently and kind of found interesting looking at buying power. And let's talk a little bit about what that truly means. But it had a kind of a state by state comparison of where, the same dollar, how kind of far that carries you.
I love this graphic. It shows that I'm a nerd when it comes to data, for
Hey, this
sure.
this one's this one's a good one for the layperson though. It's got color, it's got big numbers, it's good.
Visually appealing. So
Yeah.
yeah, very very interesting. And as soon as I saw this, obviously being in Kansas City, I was very proud to be near the top.
Yeah.
Like there's only a handful of states: Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Kentucky, that have more purchasing power.
Yep.
Oklahoma slightly ahead of us, but I'll take that $110 buying power in the city or in the state of Kansas is pretty good.
This
So,
tells me that it's 10% easier to live in Missouri than the average, what $100. Any of these that would be just straight up $100. That would be sort of the baseline normal living. You guys got it 10% easier.
that's a great way to put it. Great way to
Okay.
put it.
Where
And
California's got it tough there at $88 of buying power. I mean that I would have actually expected that to be even a little bit lower, just given the housing prices in a lot of California. That would be tough.
yeah, and what is our factor in? They're looking at cost of living, local taxes. That's being factored into this cost of living. And
Okay.
so yeah, real estate is going to be one of those things. And I would imagine if you look at, uh, example, California, they've got they've lost population, and so they're trying to figure some things out. Surprisingly, Florida, uh, it is becoming more expensive to be there because of the flock of people.
Yeah,
What
the
happened?
opposite problem caused a somewhat similar result and more lower buying power because so many people move there.
Yes, and so an example, they make a great comparison. $100 is worth 26% less in California than in Arkansas.
Okay,
Arkansas has the highest, Arkansas and Mississippi, for example. So again, some people say, well, I would rather live in California than Arkansas. On
sure.
the other hand, Arkansas has become the mountain biking, one of the biking capitals of the world,
Hmm.
and huge influx of people going to college there, and they're a big marketing campaign to make it more of a destination. You look at Tennessee. Tennessee is attracting a lot of businesses. They've grown exponentially.
Yeah,
I would assume they probably were higher. Like if you went to this 3 to 5 years ago, that number probably would have been higher. But you've got this influx. I know I was in Nashville earlier this year,
yeah,
and from our hotel, we were up on a roof, 17 large cranes around the city in big
yeah.
projects.
The last time I was in Nashville, noticed the exact same thing. It was like, oh my gosh, look at all the cranes. It really stood out for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
And you
impressive.
can tell a lot about a major metropolitan city if you go and look at the amount of cranes that are going up right now and what they're building. Uh, but it's so when people are looking for where are we going to retire? Example, Florida. A lot of people go there, no state income tax. Uh, I've got a client right now selling their home in Missouri. They've got already have a second home in California, in Florida. They're selling this home. They're going to move, live in that home, become their primary residence for a couple of years, and then sell that. Uh, so no state income tax, but depending where they are, their $100 may not go as far,
Yeah,
even
they're
though
going
they're
to
not
feel it in
paying
the
that
pocket
state.
in other ways.
Yes, and so again, the moral of the story is that this is affecting how far your dollar goes, depending on where you live. Right, so that's one factor when we're deciding where we're going to settle or retire. But any good plan that you put together, it's got to account for inflation and taxes over time. And if you watch previous episodes of the podcast, we've talked about, when people retire, their expenditures, the cash flow for usually the first 10 years of retirement, let's say 65 to 75, that's going to be the highest, and it's probably going to increase potentially slightly over that time. It doesn't do this unless we have crazy, crazy spending. Most of the time, that first 10 years it does this. And then as we embark on the next 10 years, it slightly goes down. And then the final chapter, it can go down even more, barring healthcare, which can make that hockey stick back up towards the end of life. So I think it's crucial, really, those first 10 years of retirement, really figuring out what it's going to cost for those first 10 years to do everything that you want to do, go through an exercise to make sure that your portfolio and your plan is situated such that it can generate that cash flow that it's needed in the most efficient, with as little risk as possible, to make sure that that first decade, which is probably going to be your most active, is without worry, so you can sleep well at night and really make the most out of that first 10 years.
Is your retirement journey truly tailored to your needs? In his book, Exceptional Retirement: Tools and Strategies for Retiring on Your Own Terms, Scott Dugan addresses the crucial questions all retirees ask. Discover the power of a clear financial decision-making process that can prevent major retirement mistakes and unlock exceptional opportunities. In the book, Scott outlines 4 essential questions that guide retirees toward successful outcomes. Don't miss out on key insights that could define your future. Available now on Amazon. Click the link in the description of this episode to get your copy of Exceptional Retirement.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, Scott. We're hitting the 2-year anniversary of when my wife and I moved from North Carolina to Colorado. So we went from the 106 to the 98 in that exchange. And it's interesting. Being a remote business owner, didn't experience any of the difference in terms of, what you're earning, because I could live anywhere and it's going to be about, the same, because I'm not beholden to that. Connie has seen an increase in her salary. So that was nice to go along with this. Yes, maybe an increased cost of living, but increase in salary out here compared to what we were getting in North Carolina on her end of things. But yeah, I noticed the difference in cost of living being greater. It's way more expensive to go out to eat here, just as one example. Like
Oh, yeah.
there's just, and I know everything's across the board gone up, but like I noticed the difference from one state to another for just a casual, let's just go pick up some food. Like the $10 option just doesn't exist anymore. So
No.
like anytime you go out to eat, it's going to be a little bit more of a serious, like there's just not any of those like lower tier options here that we had access to in North Carolina. So that's one area, because we eat out a lot, that we have felt the pinch quite a bit.
Oh, and I think where you see food, either at restaurants, grocery store, that's where you can see the largest increase. Gas
Yep.
pump, we're seeing.
More expensive gas out here. So
Yep.
that's
And so,
another
yeah, you
example
definitely
that we're
have
seeing.
higher gas prices out there.
Yep.
So again, it's going to be situational. Uh, the good thing about, like, most people, their largest expense is going to be their mortgage, for example. That's not going to increase, but your insurance has probably gone up, whether it's your homeowner's insurance, your car insurance, your health insurance. So that's where you see the impact of things. And so it will be interesting to see like how these play out. And then if they are able to continue to lower interest rates to stimulate the economy, to stimulate the markets, it'll be interesting to see what that effect is. But that's going to be largely driven by reactions and also policy. We're looking at an election year, and it's shaping up as we talked earlier, very contentious. We've already had a few curveballs thrown
Just a couple.
just a couple. But it is amazing how quickly we just roll right to the next thing. And we did see some volatility in the markets, in the last week or so, maybe 10 days, but it really wasn't that large of a move. It's just been things have been so steady that it was kind of a blip or a shock. So I think people kind of perked up a little bit. Go, oh wait, yeah, the market does go down swiftly, but also it comes back quickly. So it comes to make sure we've got a good, smart investment discipline. Always make sure we've got a smart place to take money from when we need it. We do not want to be emotional and have a knee-jerk reaction. Just because China raised their interest rates, Warren Buffett sold his Apple stock. We've had some numbers that came in that were a little soft. That getting that data, we don't use that data to make knee-jerk reactions. Because if we would have panicked and said, "Oh my gosh, this is the beginning of the end," and God forbid somebody went to cash, well, within a few days it erased most of that loss. And now I'm not saying it's not going to be volatile. August going in end of August, September, October are traditionally very, very volatile months. So I think we're going to be in for more of it, but that's a natural progression, and it happens almost every year in September, October.
Very good, Scott. Great breakdown today. Appreciate your perspective on not only the Social Security piece, but it's these kinds of conversations I think that folks need to be having with a financial advisor, especially as you're getting ready for retirement. You need an advisor that's talking to you about things like buying power and how are we going to plan your legacy for the future and the next generation. It's got to be about more than just what stocks and bonds do you want in your portfolio. And that's what I love about you guys. You bring so much more to the table that I think the average advisor just isn't playing in that field. And you guys are making sure that no stone is left unturned and really doing comprehensive planning for folks. And so I think today's conversation is just a slice of the depth that you go to when you're talking to folks about how to think about their finances and retirement planning.
Ultimately, it's making sure that whatever your ideal vision of retirement is, we need to help you make that come true. And that's what good, proper planning does, is keeps you on the path to make sure you experience more of what you want.
Very good. Hey, do you have any questions for Scott? If you do, here's a few ways that you can ask them. We'll put contact information up on the screen and down in the description of today's show, but you can always go to listentoscott.com. We've got great resources and past episodes for you on the website. You can also call 913-393-4724 to reach the office directly. No matter where you are, you can work with Scott Dugan, the Your Retirement Elevated team. He is the co-founder and managing partner of Elevated Retirement Group, based in KC in the metro area, but serving clients all across the country. So again, wherever you are, don't hesitate to reach out. They can work with you from anywhere. Scott, thanks for the help this week. We'll look forward to catching up with you on the next episode.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Walter.
Take care. We'll see everybody next time right back here on Your Retirement Elevated.
Investment advisory services offered through Elevated Capital Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.